Yes, hello, you're welcome to Further Together.
Enriching relationships, creating a better future.
Your friends here, Kudzi and Priscilla. We are back again this week.
And it's going to be bigger, it's going to be better. I am so excited to be here on yet another episode on Further Together. And tonight we have a guest. Last week it was partying with the children, but this week we have a guest.
Yeah, I can say we are very much honored tonight because the man we have tonight, he's very hard to get because he's quite busy. Day and night, night in the studios, day with gigs and consulting and teaching and coaching. But he said to us, you know what, guys, I will create time for you. So, you know what, we are so happy. We are so excited. If you are just joining us, would you just show us where you're joining us from? Just type your name or the city where you are watching from so that we will start knowing each other.
Yes, guys, it's another night, and we are so excited to come and just learn and share with you guys part of the nuggets that we receive as we go along in the journey of marriage. And it is good to learn, especially to grow together. So if your spouse is not on live at the moment, do tag them on this broadcast or just copy the link and send it to your spouse. There is nothing more beneficial than growing together.
You can send it to friends as well so that they benefit from this. It's quite an evening that we've been waiting for a long time. Having the opportunity to sit down with God's favorite guitarist.
Yes.
Yeah.
The man we're having tonight, I have known, let me bring him side by side as I say this. I've known Kumamono, I can't remember when, but you know, it is when we were discussing some few weeks ago, and I was saying, do you remember those days when we were coming to Mavuku and we were doing some recordings? You know, by the way, we've been going to Nkumamono in the studio to do some recordings. Those were in the 90s, like the late 90s.
What were you
Yeah,
recording?
1995.
Yeah.
You have the dates, and I was just gonna ask him, what were you recording?
We were recording with Bish. Yeah, we were doing reggae music with Bish.
Mm.
So if there is one word that I can say and I can use to describe Clive Mukundu is consistency. He is one man who have played with the who's and who of Zimbabwean music industry, played with Thomas Mafumo, played with Oliver Mtukudzi, played with Andy Brown, played with in the gospel music, Fungisai, Elias himself, gospel trumpet. You know, back in the days, I remember there's a time whereby we'll be in the Harare Gardens and we are having like a 5-day festival, and Mono will spend the whole day playing guitars for each and every band that is coming. That's how good the guy is, and now he has moved into music production. Koma Mono, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Kudzi, and my name is Priscilla. I'm very happy to be here.
And why do you call yourself God's favorite guitarist?
Yeah, I've been asked a number of times why I call myself God's favorite. I think, first of all, if you look in the Bible, there's a man who wrote the book of John. He also calls himself Jesus' favorite. He writes as, he says, the disciple that Jesus loved. So it's sort of like the same concept, because but in my case, I look myself as somebody who is really favored by God, because if I look at my history and the number of friends that I started with that passed away due to a number of reasons, like due to the number of temptations that befall musicians, and some of the mischief they went through, I also went through them, but all of them, they passed away and I'm still around. So I sometimes ask myself, how come I was missed by this pandemic? How come death did not visit me that time? So I just find thinking to myself, I think I'm highly favored. So I think I'm God's favorite.
And before we go any deeper, there may be some viewers who want to know, why is Mr. Mono by himself tonight? Where is Amai Guru tonight? And why is Amai Guru not sitting beside you?
First of all, my wife is a very private person. Even you notice that even on Facebook, there are very few pictures of her. She doesn't want even to be taken pictures. But most of all, she has a condition, so she takes medication, and the medication causes her to sleep a lot. So by this time, she will be fast asleep. So mainly those are the two reasons. But I think the first one is the biggest reason, because she doesn't want to 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 be somebody who is very public. Even when I go for shows, she doesn't want to come for shows unless if our son is playing, our son Takakunda. So
Yeah.
I think the only shows that she agrees to attend are the shows where our son will be playing. Like last Saturday, our son had a show in Rare Gardens, a theater in the park. She agreed to attend. So it's basically my wife and my daughter who are very private, but my son is always everywhere, like the father. So it's like father and son in the public sphere, and mother and daughter don't want to interact with the public.
Yeah. A lot of people who are watching right now, they know you as Mono, the producer, and we know you where it all started. Can you just take us through the journey, or how the marriage journey started?
Okay, we met in June 1993. So my wife, she used to stay in Hatfield, and I was a ghetto boy. I used to live in Kwadzana.
Yes.
So they paid a visit to Kwadzana, the area where I lived in June 1993. And I remember she came to live briefly at a house opposite the house that I lived. And there was a girl that used to live at that house who I was friends with. She was called Florence Piri. So the first time I saw her, I talked to Florence and I told her I want to speak to that girl, and I told her my mission and everything. And I remember Florence started laughing at me with, Wanamono, that girl is from the low density suburbs. You are from the ghetto.
Rasta.
She won't be interested to, yeah. And I was a Rasta. I remember I used to like walking around without shoes with my dreadlocks. And she was a clean cut girl from the low density areas. And so Florence was telling me, you know what, you are not the same class with her, so you never win here. So I told her, you know what, I just want a chance to speak to her. Just organize a chance for me to speak to the girl. And she did, although she didn't have faith in me, but she did organize. And on Saturday, 12th June 1993, we started dating. And when we started dating, the father visited his children that time in June 1993. And some neighbors told him that that's your son-in-law, pointing to me. And the father saw the way I was dressed, the way I was walking in the streets without shoes and so forth, and he was angry. And she was
Yeah.
beaten up. She was beaten up thoroughly until she bled. And she was taken away from Kwadzana, taken back to Hatfield where they lived. And she was warned never to visit me again. But she kept visiting me. He found it out, and then he took her out of Harare to Mazoe. But she kept visiting me. And little did I know that the father was a foster parent. He was not the biological father, because she's an
Yeah.
orphan. And he was very angry because she kept visiting me, and he chased her away from home. So she came back to me telling me that she has been chased away. So I organized with one of my cousins so that she could stay with my cousin temporarily. But when she went to live with my cousin, and some of my relatives started approaching her, telling her that uh, they were thinking that she needed a more stable boyfriend, because since I'm a musician, they were telling her, you know what, our relative is a musician, and the musicians do not marry. Musicians are known kuti havarore, so I think you better look for a better boyfriend. But my wife had faith in me, because you know how discouraging it is with your boyfriend's relatives are telling you to look for a better boyfriend, telling you our
It's
relative
the
is
worst thing.
totally hopeless. Yeah, but she believed in me, and she refused to let go. So when my father heard that I now had a steady girlfriend, and he wasn't really sure that I was serious or not, and he told me, you know what, we don't want to have anything to do with the girlfriend, because we've heard that she's an orphan, and usually orphans are followed with evil spirits and ngozi, so we don't want her. So I told her, and came up with a plan. So I told her, let's get pregnant and pretend that it's a mistake. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
we
mono
got
philosophy
pregnant.
back in the day.
Yeah, that's some monosophy there. So she became pregnant. And when she became pregnant, I remember my aunt telling me that my girlfriend was pregnant, and I pretended to be surprised. And when my father heard about it, he said, you know what, we don't care that your girlfriend is pregnant, but we don't want her here. And I said, she's not going anywhere. And he said, how can you say she's not going anywhere, yet you're sleeping in your mother's kitchen, you are not employed, you are not bringing in money? And I said, I'm employed because I'm a musician, but it's not bringing in money yet, but I'm going to make money later. And he said, you know what, I'm giving you 2 weeks to move away from your mother's house. By the way, my mother and father were separated, but
Yeah.
still he had some power still to come to my mother's place and cause chaos. So he gave us 2 weeks to move away from home. In that time, I tried by all means to raise some money and failed. That time, I remember I was playing for a rumba band, and there was no money coming in, and we were given 2 weeks to move away from home.
Move from the house.
And he had said, if you want to come back into the family, make sure you get rid of your girlfriend. And if you don't want to get rid of,
Who
your
was
girlfriend,
pregnant?
you can't. Yeah, she was pregnant. And I said, you know what? I know that that's my pregnancy. I'm responsible for that pregnancy, and she's not going anywhere. So he said, okay, if you don't want to get rid of her, both of you move away in 2 weeks. So for the 2 weeks, I tried to raise money. There was no money. And then on Monday, 27 June 1994, Evangelist Kasingakore from Zayoja visited me.
Yes, Bishop, who is now Bishop Admire Kasi.
Yeah, he's now Bishop Adikasi. So he visited me and said he was looking for a guitarist. He was working for Zayoja Church, blah, blah, blah. And he wanted to go with me to a practice session that midnight, that night. And I told him, you know what, it's too late and I don't know you. So I can't go with you anyway this time. But I'm coming tomorrow, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock sharp, I'll be at your house. So he told everybody, and he said, you know what, I don't think that Rasta man is coming to our rehearsals. Let's look for another guitarist. But he was surprised the following day, I was at his house. So when we did the first audition, he was auditioning me, and I was also auditioning his band, thinking, are they good enough? Because I don't want to play with people who are amateurs. So we were auditioning each other. So as soon as I played, he was very much impressed, and I was also impressed with his band. And he said, I want you to be part of my team, blah, blah, blah. We'll be paying you every month and so forth. Do you have any problems? And I told him, you know what? My girlfriend is pregnant and my father can come anytime. We were given 2 weeks to move away from home. And the 2 weeks, the time has elapsed already. So he said, you know what? Let me give you money right now, and then you look for a place to stay, you and your girlfriend. So he gave me money to look for a house. So I went back home, looked for a house, and as soon as we moved into that house, my father came to my mother's place wanting to check us out, and he was told, you know what, they're now renting somewhere. So he couldn't come to my place to chase us out. So I remember even when my daughter was born, she was born 1994, 7 October 1994. My father spent a whole year without seeing my child because he was angry, because he wanted my wife to go, and I refused. So he was very angry, but later on he forgave us. But basically, that's my history with my wife. So we've been together since that time. It's now 20 what? 26, 25, 26 years, I think.
26 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our history.
Fast forward now, you have to know that Takai will be watching some of these interviews. You're a musician, you've been going out, and I know that a lot of people, just on the segue, that a lot of people have been complaining that, Mono, how can you take your son to go to do music, because you're like taking him and throwing him in a lion's den. People are dying in the music industry. And you got your own philosophy of saying, you know what, I've been there, I've done that, and I know. On the other hand, you know the bad side of it and you know the good side of it. So we want to know now that fast forward 2021, you are living with Jean. What has changed within you from there looking at it now?
We're still very much in love, and our marriage is still very strong. But coming back to your question, I remember Taka's first gig, I think it was in 2014. His first gig in a club, and I think he was still around 16.
In his teens.
Still around 16. Yeah. And like you said, the number of people were coming to my inbox telling me all sorts of giving me all sorts of scriptures. You are taking your son into the beer halls, he's going to meet prostitutes, he's going to be very promiscuous, blah blah blah. And I told them, you know what, this is a job, honor. So if he goes in the club at this age, and if I taught him well, he won't be affected. But if I didn't teach him well, he's going to be affected by all sorts of temptations. And it's good for him to see all that, so that his mind is he can make up his mind. Because I also have a daughter. My daughter is the firstborn. I remember when I used to do school visits at a school, the teachers would take me aside and ask me, Mr. Mukundu, what type of teaching did you give your daughter? Because she's very different from all the other girls. She's not affected by peer pressure, blah blah. They will sit with me down and ask me, are you a pastor? And I tell them, no, I'm just a musician, I'm a guitarist. And they will ask me, how did you teach your daughter? And I always told them that I sit down with my kids and I tell them all the bad side, all the good side of what happens in the world. Like my daughter will tell her, you know what, we are the men. Let me tell you how we trick you, the women. And I'll tell you about all the things that happens in the world, and I will do the same to my son. And I tell you, both my kids have never even heard a single bad story about them. Everywhere I go, I'm always told about how good they are, how well behaved they are. So that's how I raised them.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Sister Angeline Mure says, "What a testimony! Well done to you and your wife." And Charles Ender says that, "What a story! You guys are meant to be together." And
thank you.
Some years ago, you did Zio for Jean, which is 2012, an album for your wife. What inspired you to do that album?
I've always noticed that once in a while, artists who are in steady marriages, they always do a song for their wives. Some do them for their girlfriends and then divorce later. But anyway, I've noticed that there are some who do songs for their wives. So I decided to make it a full album and just dedicate a full album to my wife, just to thank her for standing by me and telling her that she's a good wife and so forth. So in 2012, I did this album that you mentioned. It's called Tunzio for Jean, which means Songs for Jean. and it's a full album with about 12 songs. So that's the
Wow.
inspiration
Mm.
behind. Mm.
Wow, 12 songs, baby, write one for me.
I will. I'm coming.
Inspire him to write only one.
I
Yeah,
took
you must
this.
do.
I took this from your Twitter. You say very few musicians post pictures of their wives. Manje Nina, I
Mm.
even did a full album for her in June 2012, 20 June. Our topic tonight is marriage and fam. You know,
Mm.
you got married to Amai Gurujin when you were just a Rastafarian with your multicolor Jamaican vest, walking barefooted. And God took you from where you were to a certain level where you are going to. I remember back then you were coming from Germany, meeting in town. Oh, I've been in Germany, I've been to America, I've been to the UK with Choniso, with
You played for Mutukuti,
yes, with all those big guys.
Big guys, yeah.
And ladies were coming around you. I remember one of the days when we met close to the parliament. These ladies were just looking at it. Oh, he plays with Chuku. How have you managed to conquer and
stay with one wife, and not, leave and go for others?
For these slave queens?
Yeah, the good thing about me is before I entered the music industry, I did a research. That time I didn't even know that I was doing a research, but I would read books about foreign artists, like artists from America, artists from Jamaica. Like my all-time favorite artist is Bob Marley. So I used to read books about Bob Marley. I would read books about Jimi Hendrix and Beatles. And after some time, I started reading books and watching interviews by local musicians. So I started knowing the bad side and the good side about the music industry. That's when I started knowing about the term called groupies. Groupies are women who throw themselves at musicians. And most people would think that groupies like prostitutes. In fact, 90 something percent of them are not even prostitutes. Some of them are gainfully employed, but their prize that they want from a musician is just to sleep with a musician so that they tell everybody that I've slept with and so and so. And if you research on the internet, you can read about groupies like there's another one called Cynthia Plaster-Caster. She boasts about sleeping with hundreds of musicians. So when I entered the music industry, I knew about the bad side of the music industry, the good side of the music industry, the bad side of the musicians that I admired, and the side of them that I did not admire. So I made a choice back then with when I became a full-time musician, because I made up my mind, I think around grade 7, I think when I was around the age 12, 13, that I would want to be a full-time musician. But I wanted to prove to the world that you can be a musician and be a different musician. Like I told you that some of my relatives approached my wife and told her that our relative is a musician. Nothing good will come out of him. He won't marry you. He will abandon you. So even when she got pregnant, she thought I was going to say, "I know, you know what, it's over." But she was surprised when she told me that she was pregnant. We celebrated. I even went and bought muscard, but I don't know muscard. She found to celebrate that she was pregnant. So I always had this idea of proving to the world that you can be a musician and be a different musician. And also, I wanted to prove to my father that I can be a musician and be a different musician. And by the way, a number of musicians in Zimbabwe were what they call marombe or vagabonds. They wouldn't marry, they would just go around having children everywhere. So I just said to myself, you know what, I want to be different. I don't want to have children out of wedlock. I want to have all my kids in the house, and I want to have one wife. I don't want to divorce. So I made up my mind with when I marry, I have to make sure that I marry someone that I really love, so that I won't have to go through divorce and have my children suffering because of my bad decisions. Because I also come from a broken family. So it's things that I had made up my mind that I'm going to walk like this. I'm going to live my life like this. And I am happy that I managed to maintain most of my principles.
Angeline says you are truly a game changer, you know, knowing the music industry, knowing where you have been and those big gigs which you have attended, and you know the places that you have been to. It really shows that you are somebody who is determined to follow his dream.
Yes,
Thank you
and
very
it
much.
keeps
Especially when I was in Tuku's band, I think of all the groups that I played for, Oliver Tuku's band, they had the most temptations than any other groups that I played
I
for.
know.
Because,
I
because I
know.
tell us
remember,
about them.
I remember when you're playing on stage, some of the ladies will be giving you a sign like this, and if you
Mm,
just nod your head or if you smiled at her, you'll find they're waiting for you at the backstage. And at the backstage, there will be security guards manning the place so that no audience,
no
no
one
people from the
comes in.
audience
Yeah.
would enter. But for some funny reason, you find the ladies there. Some of them, they would pay their way to get backstage and they'll be waiting for you. And by you just giving your phone number, it means you have agreed to a proposal. So there will be no time for any proposal. You just get to business. So
Mm,
um, that's why you find that in Oliver Mtukuzi's band, a lot of musicians passed away due to HIV/AIDS. Because,
mm, mm.
as you know, for men, they say that men, the two main instincts of men are survival and reproduction.
Yeah.
So many men find it very difficult to say no when they are offered sex.
Mm,
So a lot of our band members, they passed away because of that. Even Oliver Mtukudzi himself, he was old. He was the oldest guy in the band, but still, you will find 18-year-olds. They would send notes to him. They would look for his number. They would look for his hotel room number. And I remember the other time we were playing in Zambia, a lady threw a small letter. It was red, so it hit me, and the lady gave me a sign. It's not yours. Give it to
give it to
Mtukudzi.
Give it
Tugu.
to the owner.
So I kept it. I gave it to Mtukudzi after the show, and Mtukudzi used to call me Pastor. So the following morning, he
Mhm.
was telling me, Pastor, did you read the letter that you gave me? And I said, no, I didn't. So he showed me the letter. The lady was 18 and she was advertising herself. You know what? I'm from Zambia, from here in Zambia. In Zambia, we're taught chikapa, blah, blah, blah. I'm very good in bed. So
Mm,
I can come to your room, blah, blah, blah. And of course, all of them he just ignored it, but he kept it so that he could show me what was in the letter. So
mm,
with Mtukudzi, we used to laugh a lot about such stories.
mm.
Yeah.
And you having heard, toured, you know, internationally, number one. Number two, you have tons and tons of musicians who are coming into studios, and some of these young guys, they come complaining, you know what, I've just separated with my wife, and this, my wife is doing this, or my girlfriend does that. What do you attribute as the main challenge that is causing divorce among these celebrities, young and famous?
I think number one, some of them they enter the music industry without knowing what happens in the music industry. You know how it is with
Mm,
maybe you grow up, girls ignoring you, then all of a sudden you have all these slay queens approaching you. And
mm,
Yeah.
I always tell them there's a difference between wife material and Mabawa Ranger. Was if you just pick any woman, if
mm,
you just pick any woman and think that she can be a wife, that's very tricky and very dangerous. So a
mm,
lot of them they make those mistakes. But another mistake that's another problem that we have these days is that people are getting their marriage tips from Hollywood because people are watching movies
mm.
and see what they see in movies and think that's real life. And
Mm,
that's another serious problem because what you see on TV is not real life. So I think when it comes to marriage, there are certain principles that should remain primitive because
mm,
you can't update marriage. You can't update marriage principles and say we are now in 2021, so things have changed. Everything else can change, but human nature can never change. So
yeah.
I always tell people when it comes to human nature will always remain primitive. You can update your phone, you can update your TV, you can update everything. But as for marriage, marriage is one of those principles that have to remain primitive with old school rules. If you once you try to update marriage rules, you always end up in divorce.
Once you try to update marriage rules, you always end up in divorce. And this is one of the biggest challenges. And that's why we are seeing most of these young guys who are getting into me, including the old guys, they can't stay with one marriage. Yes.
And the issue
because what happens is we are copying Madofo. Because when you're at school, if you want to copy, you need to copy somebody who is good in school. And America is good in everything else, in technology, their music and everything. But when it comes to marriage, those guys are dumb. Those guys madofo. So I always tell people to, if you want to copy good marriages or how to run your marriage, never copy Americans. They are the worst. They are the worst people to copy. So people think that since they are very good with their technology, they are very good with their music, they are very good with their movies, they are now good at everything. When it comes to marriage, I think it's best to copy people. We are the ones who can teach Americans how to run a marriage. They cannot teach us anything. Yeah, they cannot teach us anything.
This one is going to be the takeaway for me. If you're having to copy, make sure you're copying somebody who's made it, somebody who's making it in that industry. And Fifi Fadi agrees with what you're saying. There is a question here from Kenneth Richaka, which says, did you ever, I can't read it now.
All right, sorry. Did you ever had Mama following you at your shows
in order to block those who may come for you?
Yeah, in this regard, they mean, my Guru Jin, have she ever tried to follow you? Or, Big Brother just hiding to check you from behind?
She's never done that. But I remember there is a time from 1994 to year 2003. That time, I remember I worked a lot for gospel music more than all the other genres. So that time, I was doing session work for people like Fungisai, Celebration Choir, and so forth. And since she's a very strict Christian, she doesn't want to attend all the other gigs. So as for gospel, she would come not as a way of following me, but she would just come to enjoy the music, not to follow me or to do some violence. She was just coming to enjoy the music. But she's never been that type of a person.
Yeah. You know what? I for more than 20 years now, I've known her. She still remains my guru. She carries her motherly duties with all pride. That's why you see Mono doing whatever he's doing there, and all she'll be doing is praying. She'll be praying for him. Let him go there, Lord. I'm covering him. I trust her for that.
Yes, and one thing as well that I picked up from this discussion is that he's given her so much security. And the love that you have for her, which has been consistent from day one, it's like, Baba, just go and do your ministry. I'm here to back you up. So we should say thumbs up to you, Baba Nkuru, for just providing that atmosphere where she feels secure. Even at a time where you had the opportunity to say, I've impregnated you, I don't want you anymore. But you held on to her. And because of your nature, she knows she's secure. And she knows even if you go, Baba is always coming home. So thumbs up to you on that note. And before we close, I just wanted to give a word of advice to people that are in marriages and their marriages are on the rocks because of certain behaviors and wrong decisions that they've made. They've probably copied Madofo and they are looking at those people. So what advice can you give to them, please?
I think a lot of people who are divorcing right now, they're divorcing when they are still in love. Was I remember somebody saying that love is not enough when you are in a marriage. You also need guidance. You also need people who. Was like in our culture, we used to have our aunties, Vanatete, who would give advice. Because what happens when you are in love or when you are in a marriage, you are one set of people who can quarrel over very stupid things. But since just because you are in love or you are married, you don't even notice that those things are very stupid. Because somebody was saying that you can even argue on where to squeeze your toothpaste. Some are used to squeezing it from there. Some are used to squeeze it in between. But over such a simple thing, over such a stupid thing, people can fight and end up giving each other blows. But if you have an advisor and you go for counseling, they can tell you you are fighting over very stupid things. So at times people end up divorcing and they end up saying it's over when it's over just between them, when it's not over within them. And a lot of people end up divorcing. So I think it's very advisable for people to have advisors, to have counselors, so that every now and then they go for advice. And especially for those who are still young, it's not advisable to go and seek help from people from your same age or people who are still unmarried or people who are still new in marriage. Because I wouldn't advise anybody to go for counseling to a couple who is maybe a year or 2 years old in a marriage. I think those people will be still very young and still new. Because I think after something like 5 to 10 years, people will be matured enough in a marriage, matured enough to give other couples advice. But for people who are watching 1 year, I think those people will still be at a honeymoon stage. And usually at that stage, people don't know much. They're still at a honeymoon stage and they don't see anything wrong with the other. I remember one couple, they were very newly married. I think they were something like their marriage was something like 2-3 months old, and they were giving a testimony saying, I'm surprised with the people say that there are in-laws who are difficult, who can cause problems in your marriage. I've never seen that in my marriage, but they were still 2 months, 3 months in a marriage. And so after some time, I met them. After some time, they were now ripe. Manje, and they were telling me, you know what? It's not that simple. So I always advise people when you are looking for advice, never go to people who are still new in a marriage. Go to people who are 5 years or more, so that you get proper advice from people who have experienced marriage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
mentorship. And guys, we always emphasize this idea of getting mentors and getting counselors whenever you feel that you need that helpline. And like what Mr. Mono rightly said, people that are experienced, that is the key word.
And it would be very unfair for the young musicians who always follow, admire, and they're inspired by you. If we just say we are closing without you giving a word just directly to the artist. Mkoma Mono, remember, Taka will also watch this.
Okay. Like I said before, you need to be careful when you marry, because marriage is also a business decision. Because I've noticed a lot of people whose businesses went down because of the spouses they got married to. And this goes for both sexes, whether you are a man or a woman. And I know a number of women who were into music. Once they got married, they disappeared because their husband didn't approve of their professions. So marriage is a serious business decision. So when you marry, you shouldn't just marry someone just because they are beautiful or because they've got a beautiful body. Because when you start having problems, that beauty won't work on. When you start having financial problems, when you start having problems with your in-laws, that body won't work on. What works is the mind. So you need to take your time before you get married to somebody to make sure that that's the right person you want to get married to. And you need to sit down and look at your value systems, your principles, and the laws, and also create your own constitution as a couple. Because if you look at countries have got constitutions. No matter how good the Malawian constitution is or the Zambian constitution, you can't take it and apply it to Zimbabwe. So you can't copy another couple's constitution. You have to create your own constitution. Like in our marriage, the first time we started dating, that's the first thing that I started discussing with my wife. I asked her, do you like guys who drink? And she said, you know what, I don't like drunkards. And I told her, you know what, I drink. Don't know much book, church. And she ended up compromising and said, you know what, for that I'll compromise as long as you are a good husband, as long as you're a good boyfriend. I was still, we're still new then. So we discussed everything, what I want, what I didn't want, what I'm expecting in a marriage. And we later started living together, I think maybe a year later after we had really known each other. I come from an African background. I want to be the head in our marriage. And I made it clear also to her, I'm not that person who says we have to be equal in a marriage, because to me, an animal with two heads is a monster. There used to be somebody who is a head, and I want to be the head. I don't want to follow the Western style. Yeah, I'm go the same level. I want to be the head. I want to lead. You'll be the deputy, and then the kids. And those are the things that we discussed, and she agreed. And by the time we got married, everything was smooth, because we knew, I knew what she wanted, she knew what I wanted. So these days, people just consider that they are attracted to a person, and then they just get married. Like I said, they copy their ideas from Hollywood. And these days, if you hear people say, things have changed. If you hear somebody say that, it means they've seen something new they want to copy from Hollywood. Every time you hear people say, things have changed. White men do this, people from Europe do this. It means they've seen something new that they want to copy from Hollywood. And I appreciate people like Asians, like Indians. Indians have copied technology from the Westerners. They've copied technology and everything else, but they've stayed with their food. They stayed with the good part of their customs. And they are moving, they're progressing. But we as Africans, all we ever did was copy the negative side of the Western world. We never even copied the technology. Kind of matter times too, at matter time, we just copied the negative side of the Western world. So when it comes to marriage, I think there are a lot of good values that we can copy from our own systems. Of course, there's no culture, it's not bad side here and a good side here. But you find that the Western world, they magnify the good side of their culture. Do you know, the Western world, they also used to do human sacrifices, kudara, but they never talk about it. They never talk about it. But when we talk about our culture, we just magnify the negative sides only. We never talk about the good side, but we've got a lot of good side about our culture. And like the way we respect women in our culture. Because if we maintained our culture, the good side of our culture, we didn't even need feminism. Because in our culture, women were regarded as gods. And if you fight with your mother, why don't you? So there was a spiritual
yes,
but you could fight with your father, you could fight with anybody else. And the woman, do you know that in our culture, Mitupo, our totems were our surnames, but women never changed their surnames. Kana if she would remain Chiera until she died. She would never change her surname. So women were respected, and men were told, when you're in the kitchen, you don't own anything. It's the woman's territory. Even if you wanted your friend wanted a cup to borrow a cup, you wouldn't touch it. You said, speak to my Mukundu, but it's her territory. Yeah. So in our culture, we had specified roles, and women were respected. Women were gods. Men were told, if you are going to hunt and your wife is not happy, you won't catch. Go with bad luck. yeah, you go with bad luck. So I also have that belief at the back of my mind with my wife has to be happy. Whatever I do, I have to make sure that my wife is happy. Otherwise, my things will not move. So I think those are some of the elements that our youngsters have to copy from our culture and stop copying the world. I mean, the Western world. They are not America, culture. They are not good role models when it comes to marriage.
Yes,
I remember even when I went to America the other time, somebody was telling me that time I think I was about around 15 years when in marriage. He was telling me 15 years with the same wife, is it taboo to divorce in Africa? And I said, no, it's not taboo. There's no need to. Oh no.
Wow.
Right. Thank you so much, Nkomamono. You know what? We are much honored to have you. We know by this time you should be having some other guys jamming because you know we are getting into the. I mean, towards the end of the year, a lot of artists wants to produce their music. A lot of artists wants to, you know, they have those visions and aspirations that they've been having, and they want to fulfill them now. But before we say goodbye, is the guitar closer? I know Jabu, I mean, say, Mono, before you leave, just give us one number.
And guys, please pardon us.
Oh.
We would normally would have finished by now.
By 9:30. But you know what? We just want to give we just want to give this time to Nkomamono to just give us just a little bit. Okay, this one is dedicated to Priscilla and Jean.
What did you want me to play?
Kanzio for Jean and Priscilla. Tonight is for Jean and Priscilla.
Okay. I'm trying to think but I'm not a good singer. So every time I sing, I have to have somebody who has got a better voice than mine so that we sing together.
Okay.
Leonard Chisoko says, play Africa.
Africa by who? Or maybe let me play something by Tuku, because I've always admired Tuku, and he's one man who really changed my life after I worked with him. Even the studio that I have right now, I bought it with the money that I was paid. He was a very good paymaster. So I think let me play something by Oliver Mtukudzi.
So Jabu, I think you are ready for this one. Let's go, Nkomamono.
Yeah, that's thank you.
Now listen.
Yeah.
Jabu was saying Priscilla can sing, but really I didn't want to mess things up with the way that Banguru Mono is playing the guitar. I would have just messed it up. So
Right. What more shall we say apart from saying thank you so much for giving us your precious possession, which is your time. God willing, we'll meet again next week on the same channel. For me and my beautiful wife, we want to say.
Can I just check if my wife is still awake? Maybe she can just come and say hi.
Yes, please. Yes, just check for us, please. Yeah, Nkomamono is going to check for us if the Queen Mother is there. Thank you very much, guys. I know you have been supporting Super Engager for being here. Leonard Shisoka, thank you very much.
Joining us.
Kenneth Ruchaka, yes, thank you, big man. Precious Mtwasekwa, thank you so much. Jabu, thank you very much for your support. Pamela, thank you very much. Elisha Chimtanda, big brother, thank you very much. Audrey Fadzi, thank you for joining. Nelson Madzigatire, we love you so much.
Yes, and we know some of you are probably at work and you are unable to type. So we do appreciate you. We appreciate those that catch the replay as well. Further together will not go this far without your
without
support.
you. And you know, by the way, we just thought to go deeper this week and find out why is it that, you know, they say music is food for soul, and yet the musicians themselves are failing to sustain love, and music being the food for love, the food for marriage, food for soul. What is causing this? And Mono it just gave us some of the nuggets, and among them is, if you are going to copy the right person. If you are going to copy the right person.
Come with the empress.
My guru is here.
Hello.
Yes, hello, how are you? Triple Magadi, it's good to have you, and we are quite happy to have you tonight. And we've been discussing about the marriage, and you know, of course, we didn't speak much about Mabuku when we used to come and have a cup of tea at Guru Pira's place. But we went through all that, and we want to say, my Guru, we are so thankful for having you supporting Mkoma Mono from back in the days. I knew him in fact was kuna mchanzwa then coming all these years up to now. We're seeing you together. We're seeing Taka now. He's a big man. Akuridza Manzi. We just wanted to say thank you very much.
And my Guru, Elisha says it's true. My Guru is there. So thank you so much. We know you were taking some rest, but for you coming on this platform right at the end, just for our viewers to know that you are there. Kuna my Guru Kumba. You know, it means a lot to us, and we want to say thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Vanonesa vadukubuda pa TV, vadukubuda pa videos, vadukubuda pa pictures, pa Facebook.
Anzi na banguru richaka Sando kuna mai guru anzi Sando zenyu. They were singing praises vachikurumbidzai. Hanzi kunoenda kunoridza baba imamuswere muchiti sona ndirakuona kuti chii chiri kuitika ikoko. Saka vari kuti my Guru, thank you so much for your hard work and for supporting Baba Mukuru Mono.
Yes, for supporting. Now there are two men who are playing guitars from your house. Muchi supporter. But one thing for sure, which I always tell Mkoma Mono, is I know my Guru is praying for you wherever you go, and we do value that.
And this also.
It's
okay. We respect that. We respect that, my Guru. As long as you are standing in your place, supporting and being that helper, Kuna Baba Mkuru, that's all that matters. So we thank you so much.
Guys, we want to appreciate you as our viewers, and we are saying goodbye for now. Thank you so much for joining us.